Welcome back to another episode of Bodies by Brent. I am your host, Brent Ruska, and it has been a minute. It has been a long while. I just needed to take a little bit of a break from podcasting a little bit. I've switched studios. I'm trying to produce 2 episodes a week now, and I've expanded my guests to people on TikTok and all throughout the world. So I'm doing virtual episodes now, and this is my first one yet. Eden Lee Mitelman is a sex and dating coach. She's a fucking rock star. On this episode of Bodies by Brent, Eden dives into the complex arena of modern dating and relationships, building and offering radically candid stories and advice that will help anyone find success. Eden uses her wisdom and expertise to help guide others through their dating and sex lives in the healthiest way possible. Her coaching style is honest, raw, and unfiltered, and has led to impactful outcomes for her clients. You can find Eden sharing her experiences and advice on her podcast, E-Rotic, where she discusses how dating isn't just about finding someone, it's about finding yourself. This is a super fun conversation. Hope you guys really enjoy it. I'm going to have more and more episodes of just fucking awesome people I've been finding on the interwebs. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting Eden. Follow, like, and subscribe to the podcast. And for sure, leave a review. It helps so much. And that's fucking it. Let's dive into it. Eden, welcome to the podcast. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much for having me. I can hear you perfectly.
Awesome. So I got to hear about the origin story before we dive into cheating and all your dating tips. I need to hear the origin story of how you started the E-Rotic brand and all that.
So I actually was co-hosting another show called Your Block. Some of you guys might have heard of it or seen it on TikTok. 2 girls yelling at the screen. And so we were talking about dating, sex, and love, the same thing that I'm doing now, except I decided to go my own separate way and actually study it. So now I'm a certified dating and sex coach, and my audience is a little bit younger, as you guys can probably tell from my content. So then I started doing that full time, and I love it.
That's amazing. So what made you want to make the switch, jump out on your own and become a dating sex coach?
I think it was, and this is going to sound super cheesy and cliche, but I think it's always been my calling. Like I was that friend in the group that everyone would come to for advice about anything and everything. And even if I didn't know much about it, I would be able to just give them like the raw, honest truth. Even if you didn't want to hear it, I would tell it. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of how I realized I had some sort of voice or a way of articulating myself that was resonating with other people. And growing up, I realized that dating and sex was always something that I learned a lot more about myself in when I was in certain circumstances and predicaments and relationships and things like that. And I grew up in a household where it wasn't the healthiest example of what a relationship or marriage should be. And that was tough navigating when I was then dating and getting older and experimenting and doing all that stuff. And, you know, I then had to do some therapy for my own personal things. And I realized that, you know, dating and sex and all of that stuff was a great way of actually exploring myself. If I was able to be in tune with that and pause and just observe what was going on and why I was doing this or why I didn't like this or why I did like this or why this would freak me out. And I became so passionate about it and learning. And then I guess that's why I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, total self-exploration. Can you talk about what your parents' dynamic was that was not a healthy example for you?
You know, I think it's unfortunately a lot more common than people want to talk about or make it out to seem, because it's not like romantic or trendy or cool. Like, you know, the parents just get by, you know, they don't communicate properly. They don't communicate well. I think that they just got married, you know, at the time, right? Like, generations, things are different. There's pressure to get married and have kids, and you have to get married in order to have kids. And so I think they never really truly were in love, and they were never really a good partnership to begin with. You know, great people individually, but together it's a fucking hurricane in the household. So.
Yeah. It's not, I feel like a lot of our parents, it's not their fault. No one was given any tools. No one talked about anything, and they just did their best. And it just became toxic simply because they didn't have any way of communicating with each other. And I feel like our generation is like the gap between, like, you know, toxic or hot mess or challenging relationships. And we're the ones doing a lot of work on ourselves, growth. Mm-hmm. People are becoming coaches. It's like, it's a in thing to really look at your own self and take self-responsibility for who you want to be with and really be intentional with picking your partner. And so hopefully the generation 5-year-olds and all that, that won't even be a thing. Like, it'll just be like, oh, I know my emotions. I know how to communicate. I know how to set boundaries.
Well, it wasn't as accepted as it is now, right? Like back in the day to talk
Yeah.
about your emotions, or it's like, well, you know what? He doesn't beat you. He's not an alcoholic and he brings food on the table. You're good. And that's exactly the dynamic that my mom was in with her family, right? And so it was brought down, and it's sort of this generational curse that then we have to break or learn on our own without the tools, because they don't teach this in school, right? So you
Yeah.
resort to the internet, and there's so many coaches out there, both good and bad. And that's kind of where things become difficult. And so that's why I always encourage therapy. Like, I'm a coach, great, but I'm not a therapist by any means. And I think everyone should have, a therapist, or go to somebody that they can trust, that's professional, that can guide them, because it can be overwhelming, you know?
Yeah, to try to figure it out on your own, self-reflection is good, but self-reflection with somebody else who's a trained professional is, 10x.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. What were some of the red flags in yourself that you started to become aware of? You're like, I think I need to start to work on some of this stuff. Because we all
Well,
have our own red flags, I think.
definitely not perfect. And I think I pride myself with what I do in being as real as I possibly can be, and just straight up saying, like, hey, listen, I've done this, I've screwed up. And I was the toxic partner in a lot of my past relationships, and that was a sobering kind of idea to accept, because I always regarded myself highly. I was like, well, no, I'm a good person. My morals, my ethics, and my head's on my shoulder. But then when I was
Yeah.
in relationships, I feel like, if a guy was, let's say my boyfriend at the time was pissing me off or not giving me enough attention, I do something to get his attention. And that would be obviously like something stupid or toxic or mature, right? And this is when I was younger. And, and it would be similar in the household, right? Like, and I realized reflecting in my own household how that was too, raising your voice or yelling or bringing up arguments, things that you're supposed to be over because you already resolved that issue. You bring it up in new arguments, like very toxic little things that added up. And I was like, why am I not in a happy, healthy relationship? And
Yeah.
I had to do some reflecting, because my partner was my mirror at the end of the day.
What were some tools your therapist gave you that you use now with clients that really helps you kind of break some of those patterns?
I love my therapist, and it took me a while to find her. It was a journey. Like, I had to go through several to find that good chemistry and click, which is why I think it's important to just be patient with that journey, because it's difficult. But she kind of has the same approach as me. She gives it, straight up, nice and raw. And she taught me to be hypercritical with myself, but in a self-loving way, which I thought was counterintuitive and kind of,
Oh, interesting.
didn't understand it. But she was like, self-love is accountability, right? And I'm like, okay. And then with time, I realized she was absolutely right. And that is, own your shit and always aim to figure out what you can do better at, and be okay with admitting, hey, I really suck at communicating. And you know what? I'm aware of that, and being the first to say that, rather than waiting for your partner to be like, you suck at that, when you already know what you bring to the table and what you need work on. And I think that really helped me, and that has helped me and my clients and people that I work with, and all the content, I think, is based off of that, owning your shit and knowing that, yes, it's good to sometimes give yourself the self-love and pet yourself and be kind, but we all are flawed human beings, and that's kind of the beauty in it. There's always room to grow. There's always room to improve, so just figure out what it is that you struggle with, and stop looking for the circumstances and the people that you can point fingers at, and see where you can pull your weight.
Yeah, it's like tough love, like self-love. You gotta be really honest with yourself. It might be painful at first, but it is actually the most kind and loving thing you can do to yourself, because on the other side of working through your own shit is love for yourself, and letting go of all that shit. And one of the most toxic things that can happen in a relationship is cheating. And I know you have an amazing episode on cheating, and I know you've cheated, yeah, and you've been cheated on. I want to hear your experience with both those stories.
Okay. It's funny, because before I posted that video on cheating and wrote the blog post and posted content on it, I went to a friend. I was like, God, I've been I've admitted that I've cheated before, right? On a podcast before, but it was kind of hidden within the sentences.
Totally.
And I said, I wanted to do this video, and I want to get on there and talk about cheating, because, all my clients and we talk about, life after cheating and things like that. And a lot of my followers have been asking me, what's cheating, and how do I figure out, what actually is considered infidelity and things like that. And I was like, but in order for me to talk about cheating, I have to be honest, and I have to say, well, I've cheated, because I also have the perspective of the cheater as well. And that's why when I'm talking about cheating, I'm like, cut the bullshit here. Like, it's not about your partner, it's about you. And so, which we'll get into. And so she was just like, why are you so scared? Everyone cheats. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
Yeah. And so then I realized, people are struggling with being cheated on, but so many people, almost universally, while it is like forbidden, it's practiced consistently, and it's just on the low, and it's hushed. So I went on there, and basically my story with cheating is I was in a relationship, a long relationship. It was about the 5-year mark, and I was actually living
Okay,
with
yeah.
him. I can't believe I'm divulging all these details. And it started off, like every cheating scandal or affair happens, right? A message, curiosity, you follow that curiosity. Somebody reached out to me. I started talking. What's the harm? What's the harm? Well, I'm not
Yep.
happy in my relationship, or he's always busy with work and not giving me attention. I've done my part and had that conversation with him. Nothing's changed. Are we really dating? And then, I followed that, started seeing
Yep.
another person, and was addicted to it. Like, loved cheating in that moment, right? And
It was
I was
fulfilling a need, yeah?
absolutely, I was chasing something that I thought that I could find in my partner, but really it had to have come from me to
Yeah.
begin with. And I was blaming external circumstances in my relationship to actually justify the cheating for as long as I could.
Do you remember what it was like, maybe the first or second time you were intimate, how it felt after you left and went back home to your partner?
Well, it's several emotions, I think.
Yeah, I bet. It's
When you
complex.
oh, it's so complex. I mean, if you're kind of asking me what it's like to then go home and see my partner,
Yeah.
our schedules really didn't line, so I didn't get to see him. So I didn't really get to experience that like immediate, oh my God moment of guilt and shame, which is why I think it continued. But definitely I felt gross. And, the reason why I continued to do it was because the high that I would get when I was feeling low, right? It's like an addiction, right? It's very similar to an addiction. So when I'm feeding that loneliness with something like, to self-medicate myself as a Band-Aid solution, that's what kept me going. But yeah, I definitely felt like shit. I felt gross. But then I was like, okay, don't think that way. Don't think that way, because your relationship is shit. Okay. And you're doing what you need to do in the moment to survive.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah,
just
you have like
justifying it.
two sides of you. I've been watching a lot of Intervention. I love that show for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking about cheating, and I feel like it's very similar in that, at the end of the day, most people are good people, and there's some kind of emotional distress happening within us. And instead of you using opioids or heroin or meth or whatever, you end up needing that affection, as all human beings do. And then, yeah, we have almost an addiction, and then a rationalization, and then it kind of spirals slightly. And
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there's all these things going on, and then you're fighting, these love hormones and good hormones inside of you. So yeah, it's very, I imagine, very addictive.
It's addictive. It's complex too. And then, what I realized with getting out of that and actually going to therapy and being like, I got to check myself. Like we got to work on this, because at the end of the day, I was the only person that lost, right? Like, yes, people got hurt, and then I had to deal with knowing that I hurt more than one person. What I realized too was it also, another layer to it was not just, oh, I'm seeking something that I can't give myself or my partner's not giving me, but also it was this vengeful revenge adrenaline thing for me at the time, right? Because I was so mad at my boyfriend at the time. I was mad at my father for not being, the best father figure, like all of these things.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that that's why I was doing it until I went to therapy and reflected on really the core of all of my feelings. So I was seeking something, sure, but it goes deeper than that. It's like there's layers, and it's quite intense.
Did you decide to go to therapy and decide to end the relationship because you got caught, or you just came to a place of like, I think I got to end this and I got to work on this?
Okay, so the therapy, I've been in therapy for like majority of my life. I've been in therapy for like 10 plus years, more than that. And I went to a different therapist for, what I was going through with my relationship at the time. But I left the relationship not because I got caught. I didn't get caught for years post the relationship being over, by the way. So, I tried to bury it and I tried to move on. And obviously somebody knows somebody who knows somebody. And then boom, right? Massive destruction years later.
Yep.
So I left the relationship because, at that point, after doing it for a while, I was like, I can't live with myself. So the reason why I can't live with myself is because I'm in a toxic home with this man. So I need to leave. Right. So I kept making excuses. So I thought leaving the household from this guy was going to give me some sort of peace or make me feel less crazy. But then I was, homeless for a few months. I had nowhere to live. I was sleeping on my cousin's couch because we were living together. I had to be downtown. I had work, all of these circumstances. And it wasn't ideal to leave, but I was at that point of desperation to get out, which I should have gone out a long time ago at that point. And I realized I was still unhappy, and I was still feeling the same feelings that I did, even though I left. Right. And I expected that to be the end of everything, but it wasn't.
So what were some of the big discoveries, you're at that place that you started to make with your new therapist about, your reasons why?
Why I cheated?
Yeah. Like after, you left, you thought, okay, leaving is going to solve this problem, but then you're realizing it's not solving the problem. What did you realize was the problem?
The common denominator was running away and not facing anything, right? Like physically running away, emotionally running away, intimately, right? Diverting my attention from one person who I, wasn't very intimate with at the time to somebody new, fresh, and exciting. So it's constantly not being able to sit and deal with my shit and look myself in the eye and realize, okay, you did something bad, Eden. Okay. And there's something wrong. And how are you going to help yourself? I didn't want to sit. And I had the same sort of common denominator throughout my entire life in all areas, including work. I had no work-life balance. I didn't want work-life balance. I wanted to work myself to the ground. I didn't want a single second to myself because I knew that the feelings and the thoughts would come rushing in and I would have no way of dealing with them because I had no skills, no tangible things to do, right? And therapy obviously taught me different coping mechanisms, that sometimes work, sometimes don't. But it was scary, right? Imagine to deal with all this shit that you've been pushing away for years.
Yeah, and it's uncovered. So you got into another relationship after you left that one.
I did.
And was that the relationship that you got cheated on?
No, so I got cheated on, which is crazy because normally it's like, oh, karma, right? But I actually got cheated on with my first relationship when I was quite young. And I was like, I hate men. I hate cheaters. Fuck this. It's disgusting, whatever. And I still ended up doing it. So it's like, it's kind of crazy to think about it that way. But I feel like a lot of people are like, ethically and morally, obviously cheating is wrong. But where are the lines? Where are the boundaries? And, can you justify cheating? There are so many loopholes, I feel like now.
What do you think are the loopholes? And then also looking back, in those moments, where do you think you could have stopped yourself or how would you have done something different?
Well, I'll answer the latter question first. I think now, obviously, I wouldn't have gotten myself in that position. If somebody was enticing to me and I was in a relationship, I would obviously have to reevaluate myself in my relationship because sometimes that'll show you something about yourself or about where you're at or about your relationship. I would probably obviously leave if I was still on that wavelength of wanting to experience something new with somebody else. And I think the biggest thing is if I could go back in time, I would spend more time with myself and actually try and work on the things that I was feeling and understand them rather than just blame and shame other people for them and run away from them. Because till this very day, obviously, I still have to deal with the repercussions of that point in my life. Not that they were repercussions, but, they definitely stunted, I feel like, where I could have been today, right? From all of that trauma and all of that, craziness that happened in my life, and there's a lot of shame too in society. I live in like a community where people know about it, like, and oh, she's a cheater. Oh, she's, and then you're shamed for the rest of your life. Once a cheater, always a cheater. So there's a lot that you deal with afterwards. So yeah.
What do you say when people say once a cheater, always a cheater? What's your opinion on that?
Straight up, I think there is a lot of validity to it if you don't get caught and if you don't do the healing, right? Like, you will continue to cheat. And if it's not with that exact same dynamic, like, that three combo there, like you, your partner, and somebody else, it will be in another relationship if you don't pause and realize why you're cheating. And you're going to sit there and blame everybody else till, one day you get caught, one day you deal with some, blow up, shame, guilt, all of that stuff. And then you're going to work on it. So yeah, I do believe that once cheater, always a cheater if you don't get caught. And if you don't work on it, But otherwise I refuse to cheat again. I think I'm pretty traumatized from that. And, I've learned a lot about myself, and I don't feel the need to do that. I won't get into a relationship with somebody if I'm not ready to commit to what that means.
It seems like some of avoiding cheating or being cheated on too is really knowing yourself, really being able to pause every step of the way through the dating process into a long-term relationship. What are some of the cheating loopholes?
Okay. So, well, I mean, we've all heard it, right? Oh, having my ex-girlfriends on social media is not cheating, right? Oh, watching porn, not cheating. Everyone does it. Oh, hugging a family friend that I've known and then going out with her and not telling my girlfriend because I didn't think it was important because nothing happened. That's not cheating. Oh, we were fighting. We were on a quote unquote break and I ended up fucking 3 girls that night, but that doesn't count, right? These are the loopholes of cheating. And it's become so much easier now with social media, yada, yada, all that stuff. But at the same time, and I watched all the Esther Perel videos out there. She's phenomenal. So thank you for sending me that, Brent. She had a phenomenal quote, and it was like, today it is more easier to cheat than ever before, but it's also harder to get away with it and keep it a secret. And it's so true because social media, while it does entice you and there's so many options and you can DM and your girl won't know and you can watch stories and your girl or guy won't know and, all these things, right? That, well, because she doesn't know, because she can't find out, is it really cheating? And I'm not like sexual with them. I'm not like balls deep in them. Sorry, I don't know if this is a PG podcast or not.
No, let it rip.
Perfect. Just my style. Then, it's not cheating. These are loopholes. So it's endless.
It is endless. So how do you set a container or understanding and boundaries with your partner to determine what's cheating and not cheating? I think a big mistake a lot of people make is they don't even have a conversation about it. But how do you go about setting boundaries, and what are good boundaries to set?
So it's going to sound very inauthentic and possibly like something that most people won't do because it's not a comfortable thing to do. But, the earlier parts of your relationship when you've decided that you're committed and you guys know what commitment looks like to one another, because again, another loophole to potentially keeping your options open is not actually solidifying what commitment looks like to you or means to you. To some people, commitment is, well, yeah, I'll see you for like a brief period of time. There's really no long-term game here. And at any point I can check out and, I can ghost you and whatever, and then I can cheat. And then if I want to come back, I can come back, right? Like some people have this elaborate scheme of what commitment is in the moment. It's not like a long-term game for them. So figure that out first and foremost. And then it's a conversation of boundaries. It's a conversation of saying, hey, listen, I hope that we're on the same page about this. And I think that we should be, because it's the most important thing, obviously, in longevity and loyalty and transparency and the whole fundamentals of a monogamous relationship. What is cheating to you? Are you okay with porn? Are you not okay with porn? And ask them what they feel, don't come in and say, I don't like it when guys watch porn and they're cheaters if they do. Like some girls and some guys are, guilty of going out there and being like, this is what I want. Well, honey, it's not just you, right? There's another person to factor in, and sometimes you'll have to compromise. Now, I'm not big on compromising on personal boundaries. Come into a relationship knowing what is a big no and what is a big yes and what is a non-negotiable for you, right? Like you have to have non-negotiables, but you also have things that you are, I have only experienced this being negative, but, I'm also going to be open, and with the right person, porn might be okay. Or maybe we can watch it together, or like there's ways to compromise certain things to make each other feel more comfortable. And then, so once you've had a conversation like that, which I know is difficult, in the moment, when you spot something that gives you that feeling of discomfort, that starts to get close to that wishy-washy line of, is this cheating or is this not, is when you have to say, hold on, pause. I felt like this when you did this. And, I know that maybe your intentions weren't that, but that's what it does to me. That's how it makes me feel. And I don't think I'm cool with that, and maybe in the future I will be, but right now I'm not. And so I just want you to know that. And I hope that you can respect that. I think also double standards too is a big thing. Like you don't want to have double standards. So if you're saying this makes you feel uncomfortable, don't go around doing that. So if you don't like your 100%. Man to have girlfriends, then you shouldn't go around having super close guy friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have my own personal, like, would I be okay if my partner were doing the same thing? Right? Like, if we're going to go do this. So in that moment, would I act in the way that I want my partner to act? It's kind of like is my way of navigating through the world when I have a partner.
I think that's good, but it's also flawed because, you know, I've had experiences with a guy, for example, who he's, you know, a lot more open and social and okay with having, you know, girls around him. And he's like, he's not doing anything or whatever, but he grew up with like a lot of girlfriends, and I'm not cool with that. And I would never do that for him. Even if he's like, you can have guy friends, I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Got it. Yeah.
For
That makes sense. Yeah.
So there like, I think it's a great way and it's a good starting point to think that way. Like, would I want my partner to do this to me? And if not, then why the fuck am I doing this? Right. That's a great way to think, but there are always exceptions. Right.
Totally. So cool. So you really need to sit down and kind of think to yourself, what's comfortable, not comfortable. Have that hard conversation up front, because if you don't, things are going to spiral. And when you do feel something in you, hopefully you have a partner, you just communicate, hey, I feel this when this happened. I just want to talk to you about it.
And for those that don't want to do this or think, I'm not going to, it's fine. He should know, she should know. You're setting yourself up for failure, right? Like when you are not being clean cut, like you don't want this person to twist any words or any ambiguity to be there, because then when things happen, they can look at you with their puppy eyes and put on an act and say, well, I didn't know, or I don't think that that's a big deal, or, you know, and it's years down the line or months down the line. So do your part, right? Again, it's all about, comes down to what I always preach, accountability. Do your part, or else you'll cry about it later and you're going to have to deal with more shit, right? So make things easier for you. I like to be crystal clear. Like, you're not going to get confused. If you need me to translate in different language for you, I'll do it too. Like, let's keep it very clear and concise. You know, I don't want to play games, you know, and this is for serious relationships, obviously.
I love that. Radical responsibility. You can't really control the outcomes if you don't really take responsibility. Do you have advice for people that have been in really long-term relationships that have not had any of these conversations in a long time? How to have them?
Yeah. So it's definitely going to, oftentimes what I've seen is there is some friction at the beginning when you start saying, oh, I don't like what you've been doing. Because then the other person feels like it's almost an attack. Where is this coming from? You know, you haven't said anything. It's not fair. You're blindsiding me. So I think just having a conversation and saying, and being transparent and honest, right? It doesn't need to be forged or fake. Guys, speak from the heart. And I think that goes so much farther than listening to somebody online and writing a script down and repeating it and regurgitating it. So just say what you feel. Like, hey, listen, I haven't truthfully said that, you know, these certain things were bothering me in the past because they didn't, or maybe I was trying to be the cool girl or cool guy and I didn't want to bother you and I didn't want to invade your world or how you were living before me, pre me. But it's getting to the point where, you know, our relationship is serious and it means the world to me. And I want to make sure that we're both happy, healthy, and comfortable. And, you know, I have to do my due diligence and be transparent with you that, you know, this is no longer something I'm comfortable with. And I know I'm blindsiding you, and like admit those things if that's how you might feel in the moment. And just be honest. And your partner, a lot of people don't talk because of the fear of what the partner is going to say, that he's not going to say or she's not going to say what you want them to say. And that's a red flag in your relationship already, right? So keep that in mind. If your partner's not greeting your honesty and you speaking from the heart and making it a you, not a them problem, right? Then your partner's not a healthy partner. If they're going to reject that or be defensive, like red flags everywhere, your partner should be reassuring. Your partner should be open and listening and be like, okay, I hear you. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. So it's not that hard for me to stop talking to girls. Like, it's not, because you're important to me. You know, it's not rocket science.
If they're getting defensive, they're gaslighting you, you know, there's a deeper issue already.
100%. And most often than not, the person, and, you know, yes, there are exceptions, but I believe that people who gaslight or get defensive right away, it's because they're doing it and they don't want to stop. You know, that's the reality of it.
Do you have any other thoughts on cheating?
Okay, well, I think that, I mean, as a woman, I think that the conversation about cheating, in my world with all of my girlfriends is, you know, was there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me that he cheated on me? Am I not hot enough? Am I not good in bed? Am I not this? Am I not satisfying his needs? And I think, you know, if those that are listening haven't already gotten the gist, it's not really about you. Don't make it about you. You know, it's about the person who did the cheating. It's all their problems and their issues. You know, yes, there's always room for improvement in relationships, but trust me, that person would have cheated on you even if you were the most perfect person in a relationship, if they did not deal with their shit. So that's kind of like an end note to cheating, if we want to wrap the cheating part up, just because I really want people to understand that it's not really about you, right? And I'm aware that, you know, girls cheat on guys like I did. So I'm not trying to say it's just for women, but in general, like, it's not a you problem. Don't take it as such, and don't let that jade you or have you walking around the world hating on the opposite sex or the gender or the sex that you're attracted to, and, you know, write off relationships for the rest of your life. That's not fair to you. Don't let that person ruin you.
Yeah, it's a cheating, whether on either side, is a traumatic event, and you have a choice to kind of carry that trauma on or release it and let go and learn and have an even better relationship, regardless if you're a cheater or cheated on. It sounds like.
Exactly.
All right. So we all need good dating advice. You know, I hear all the time from clients that it's a shit show out there. And I want to hear from you, you know, the way you approach dating, and then now learning and educating yourself and doing therapy. What are good strategies for successful dating?
It's really a big question. I think, again, dating starts with you. Number one for success is come equipped. Okay. So know what you want, when you want it, with who you want it with. And what I mean by that is when you meet somebody, oftentimes, you know, I don't know if you've heard of box theory, Brent, but
No,
I didn't invent this. It's all over the internet apparently, and it's true. When you meet somebody right away, right, your mind goes to three things. I think for guys and girls, almost immediately after a few exchanges of sentences and words, you're like, okay, would I fuck you? Could I date you? Or is this just a platonic thing? Are we just friends or nothing at all? Right.
Yeah.
So I think when you go into those interactions with dating, know what your end goal is. People aimlessly shoot their shot and then they're like, well, what am I going to do with this? You know what I mean? And then they're like, well, how do I follow this? Or what am I doing here? Do I just want to have sex? Do I just want to casually date? Do I want a relationship? What the fuck do you want? And a lot of times we date without knowing, and then we blame the rest of the world, being like, oh, everyone's ghosting me, or everyone's this, or everyone's that. Be clear on what you want so that the actions that follow are just as crystal clear, you know? And I think communication, I know everyone rolls their eyes when I say communication for dating and relationship success and anything in life, business, whatever. Learn how to communicate what you think, your feelings. Also know your boundaries and how to communicate those things, your wants and your needs, right? You know, I think those are like the basics. It's a must for dating. I think being open, but also taking time for yourself and keeping busy. People oftentimes think that I'm crazy when I say that dating should not be the primary thing that you think about when dating. And what I mean by that is, you know, I believe in energy to a degree. And I think that when people are obsessing over dating, like, oh, I need to date. I need a man. I need a girl. I need this. I want to fuck. I want to whatever. Okay. Whatever the point of you pursuing other people is. When you're obsessing like that, you're exuding really just negative, toxic, desperate energy that is a turnoff for anybody. You can be the hottest, the most successful, whatever you want to say makes you attractive in dating and makes you successful in dating. But when you are going around with that energy and you're hungry for that, you are basically saying that you lack that. Okay. And nobody wants to be with somebody who is going to look at them like, you are my world. Like, you will fulfill all of the things that I need you to fulfill. Nobody wants to have that much responsibility, especially at the beginning.
It's where that phrase comes, you know, you can smell desperation, right? And it's like we as human beings can sense it. Mm-hmm. And like, it's not an attraction. It just repels, and it's the same when you walk into a room and you're like, the energy feels off. There's some kind of sense that we can just feel that's unexplainable.
Yeah, like even online, even through DMs and texting, like there's something
100%,
there.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can vouch for that too, and everyone's experienced this. Like, let's say, you know, you're in the best shape of your life. All right, Bodies by Brent, everyone. And you're going out and you're all dolled up and you look amazing and you feel good and you're like, I'm going to find my husband tonight, or I'm going to find my girl tonight.
Yeah.
And girls do this. I mean, I don't know about guys, but girls do this for sure. And they sit there at the bar, sitting pretty, looking around, this, that. Girl, you're stunning, right? There's no doubt about that, but your energy is ugly. right? And nobody is going to find that attractive. Every time I've ever gotten into a relationship, a serious relationship, was when I literally, and I swear to you, I did not even want to date, to be honest. I was like, nah, I could go without it. I'm focused on my business. I'm focused on my friends, my family, everything else. And that right person walks in, right? And I think it's the vibration, the energy vibration that you're giving off. You attract, like attracts like. So if you're going to be desperate and you end up accidentally finding somebody, I guarantee you it's not going to be long-term. It never is. And it's usually a quick fuck, and it's not even worth it anyways. So all of these things, like your mindset's got to be in check for dating success. I can give you tangible, how to pick up girls and how to pick up whatever. At the end of the day, it starts with you, right? Like I can't, there's no quick fix. There's no life hack. There's no 20-day ebook to buy that's going to solve all your issues. You got to put in the work, so maybe not the answer you guys want to hear, but
No, it's good. Your internal world, right, is going to be expressed on the external. Also, I imagine if you want to have a good quality long-term relationship, if you don't have your own life and you don't have your own things that bring you joy, know how to fulfill it, eventually that foundation is going to crack and fall apart anyways, because you're going to drain the other person and it's going to become probably codependent or toxic or something, right? So it behooves everyone, I think, to just develop that. Even myself, I'm trying to incorporate, there's all these pieces, right? What would you say some of the pieces are to creating kind of a fulfilled life to be able to attract somebody into it?
I think make sure that you are being true to yourself with what you want to do. I think finding a passion, a hobby, there's like rules to hobbies, right? One that makes you money, one that fulfills you. I don't know, all of these, rules or whatever, but just make sure that you're fulfilled and you're happy and you're doing what you want. And that you're focused on self-growth and being on that journey, right? And being in tune with yourself. It's the most attractive when somebody is in tune with themselves, because then they can be in tune with other people and connect to other people on another level, right? I believe it's part of building that emotional intelligence with yourself and with others, So everything that you do, like you said, everything internal will exude external. There is no right way of doing things. Whatever makes you feel good, as long as you are resorting to healthier alternatives to things, or you're pushing healthier, narratives in your mind, and you're getting up and you're, doing one little thing that's going to improve you as a human being, I think that you're on the right path. And also for those that are upset or feel discouraged because they feel like they've been doing that and it hasn't been working, just thank the universe or whatever it is that you believe in that a person hasn't come into your life yet, because chances are you'll realize why they haven't in the moment that you feel like you need them or want them. Because when they do, you'll be even more ready at that point. Like I believe it's a great filtration process. People that don't work out for you, people that, like life just guiding you and not being successful in your dating life in that moment. If you've done the work and you are doing the work continuously and it's still not working for you, just trust that there's a bigger reason for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that. In your own life, what are some of the buckets you focus on keeping full to feel fully like embodied and good and just kind of flowing with life?
Definitely. I mean, I'm a mixture of all the things that you guys have probably already know. I like to read a lot. I like to take time to 5, 10, 15 minutes to just meditate. And by meditate, I don't mean and deep breathing and all of those things. That could work for some people. For me, I like to just sit with myself in the morning and let my thoughts float and do nothing about them. I think that's really powerful too, is to be aware of what's going on in your mind and just letting them be. I think that's taking back your control and not, and working on anxiety and things like that. I've been writing a lot too, which has helped me express myself and look at things differently. I do this activity too, which I believe has helped me with, being in relationships, with dating, with all that stuff, is I write down things I'm anxious about. So let's say you're dating someone or you're seeing someone, they haven't responded to you. I like to write down, okay, why am I upset? Because he hasn't responded to me. Okay. And what? And challenge every thought until you realize how irrelevant or how it's really not that big of a deal anymore. Practicing these little things has made me feel more in tune with myself, and has kept me, I hope, in a more stable mindset that I believe has helped attract the right people for me, in the past few years.
That's amazing. So say, guy or girl, your life is flowing, it's great, and you see somebody that you're attracted to. What's a good way for guys to approach a woman and kind of begin those first stages of dating? And when do you have that conversation about, this is what I'm looking for, sex, relationship, or just casual?
I'll answer the latter question because I think that's like a quick answer for me. The minute you figure out, the minute you know, like if it's the first date and you're like, yeah, there's no way in hell I'm bringing her to my mom. But you know, she can come over tonight. then I would just be honest, be like, hey, listen, I'm not interested in anything serious, and I just want you to know that because I respect you and your time and all that stuff. And I totally get it if that's not what you want, you know, being understanding and giving them an out, right? I think that that's super critical. People don't think of giving people an out. They think about themselves a lot, right? And they don't think of how things are translated to the other person. So I think that that's super important when you have those conversations. So the answer is just when you know. So it could be a month into dating and you realize you want to be in a long-term relationship with them and you want to be exclusive. That's when you open your mouth and you say it. Why? What are you waiting for? Right? Are you waiting for them to tell you first? Are you 5 years old? Do you want to get your heart broken? You know, if you want that, say it, right? Otherwise, you can't expect them to naturally know, or, you know, you'll be surprised. Some people don't pick up on cues. Some people don't. And that's fine. So you have to make it be known and do your part. Like I said, accountability. And then, sorry, you said, what was the other question? I lost my train of thought.
You know, just approach initial attraction. Tips for just approaching, even whether you're a guy or girl. You know, I think it's awesome when a girl approaches a guy. You know, what are tips for men and women? You see someone attractive, your life's fucking great. How do I approach?
Well, it's good that your life's fucking great. I think
not me. I'm just saying, like, based on your criteria.
No, I know. No, it's good. Your life's fucking great. You're ready to approach somebody. You see somebody.
You feel like a fucking rock star.
Yeah, exactly. Rock star vibes, and you see somebody that catches your eye. The first thing is don't do anything. Okay, please, my friends. And I know that people are like, what? What do you mean? I'm that type of person that believes that you should put a little bit more thought before you speak, before you walk, before you do anything. Okay? Observe. People give clues and hints, even online. People are fucking posting every 5 seconds about things they like and want attention for, right? Let's be real. So people are dropping hints constantly of, you know, a little bit about them or what they want you to notice. So in person, yes, it could be a little bit challenging if you can't really read a lot of social cues and things like that. But who is she with? Is she in the middle of a conversation that seems in depth? You probably shouldn't approach her then right now, right? My biggest little hack, if you are not getting any social cues that she's possibly interested in you, right? She's not glancing over. She doesn't know you exist, but you really can't, you know, give this up. You have to do something. If you are at a bar or at a restaurant, this is the best. Get her a drink, but hold on. It's not, let me buy you a drink, baby. What's your name? It's sit in your corner where you've been and have the waitress or waiter get them another drink of what they're having and say it's on you. Have them point to you. You wave. You don't do anything about it. What that does, you know, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think it gives the girl or guy space to decide what they want to do. Because when we approach other people, we're not really giving them a second to be like, oh my God, like, did I consent to this? Do I even want to talk? Am I even ready to talk?
Yeah.
So that drink thing has always been like a little hack for those that want something tangible. And if she's interested, she'll either approach you or she'll smile or wave at you or send one back. And here is how you break the ice before you have to break the real ice. Do you know what I mean? And this is the consent, the agreement that you both are interested in each other. If you don't want to do the drink thing, you have to read her or his body, you know, social cues, eye contact, things like that. If you want to walk up to them and you've got none of that, you are most likely going to walk into a more uncomfortable, awkward situation where he or she is thrown off and sometimes a little bit defensive. So don't take that personally, right? Understand that you are coming into their space right now and they weren't expecting it. So, you know, if that's how you want to do it, I think what's really nice and what's worked on me personally is when a guy's like, listen, I know, you know, you've probably been approached, or I know that this is probably uncomfortable or weird or whatever. I don't usually do this, but I just couldn't pass up the opportunity. I just want to say, hi, you know, this is who I am, make a joke, you know, whatever it is that you can, bank on your personality in that moment, find a commonality or something to talk about. And if the conversation is flat, just take it as that's not your person, right? You couldn't even build a simple conversation. It's not your person. I don't have some like, you know, crazy one pickup line that works on everybody, guy and girl, but I think it's important to do your research before. If you want to slide in on a DM, this is so easy. Watch their stories and slide into something that is not sexual, not talking about their looks. Don't freaking send a heart emoji eyes, something stupid like that. What the hell is anyone going to respond to? Or, hey, how are you? Good, how are you? Biggest thing, follow the conversation in your mind. If you want to introduce yourself and say, hi, my name is, what's your name? She's going to say her name and then look at you blindly. End of conversation. Nobody cares about your name till I'm actually interested in you. So leave that to the end, right? People oftentimes think, oh, these are like formal greetings and things like that. Well, dating and relationships in our world is not very formal anymore. Nobody gives a fuck about who you are or what you're doing at this bar or, you know, the name of your dog or whatever. Not until I actually care about you.
Yep.
So slide in with something unique and different. So, you know, you're watching her story and she's posting, I don't know, something, and her cabinet is open in the back. This worked on me. It was funny. The guy's like, you know, your cabinet's open, like close it, you know, and he wasn't talking about me. He wasn't, and he was banking on his personality, his weird humor, which I was attracted to. So I think, think outside the box a little bit and watch them for a minute. If you don't have an opportunity, pass it up or shoot your shot and just know that success rates are quite low, and that's okay. You are practicing. You're building your confidence. You're building your narrative. And you're learning how to deal with rejection if it happens.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have advice for first dates, second dates, you know, or is it very individual? A
bit of both. I think we can all agree that a dinner date, although sounds ideal for the first date, is awkward as shit. And nobody likes to pay for the bill. Shit gets weird. Did I even like you? What if you hate her or hate him? Right? Like, let's not pretend to reach for the bill when we really don't want to pay. We want to get the hell out of there. Halfway through, we go to the washroom. We think of escaping through the window. Like, don't put yourself in a position where you're committed to each other for an extended period of time and you have to necessarily, you know, spend money or whatever. Like, don't put yourself in an uncomfortable position. You guys are already uncomfortable. You don't know one another. There is nothing better than a coffee date or a tea date. You grab and you walk. This helps with the jitters for those that are, you know, really nervous and struggle to make conversation or just starting to get back out there and date. Walking and having things around you that you can make conversation about that you both can see as common ground technically, nothing riveting, but it could be a conversation starter. So I think, you know, the simpler, the better, because you want to get to know each other and not be swayed by the frills of, you know, some extravagant first date, unless you've been talking online for a long time and you kind of have created something, you've done future projections, which is a great way of turning a platonic friendship into, you know, something that could be a little bit more, you know, to project what you guys would do based off of the conversations you've had. That's maybe a little bit more mindful, like a little picnic or something, but keep it simple. First date should not be anything extravagant. Relieve the pressure from both of you guys.
Yeah, I think walk's awesome because you can make the walk go longer or you can keep it short. You have like an out at any moment. You can just 100%. Pull the ripcord and be like, I'm fucking out of here. It's funny. I've seen a lot of TikToks though. There's like a lot of women who are like, I would never go on a date with a man who asked me to coffee or a walk. I was like, first of all, coffee and walks are fucking amazing. Yeah. So that's weird. And also, why do you want to be stuck at a formal dinner with somebody and you're like, I barely know your energy.
I know. You know, it's I think it's a bit of a cultural thing. I'm half Eastern European, and in Russia, not that I've never really been, but I know a lot of people from Russia and like my family. And women there will not go on a date with you unless you buy them a bouquet of flowers and take them on an extravagant dinner. Like, that's the norm there, right? And so then they come here in North America. I have a family friend of mine who's straight, you know, fresh off the boat from Russia, God bless him. And he's like trying to date and he's bringing bouquets to these women's homes and they're looking at him like, what the fuck is wrong with this man, you know? So I think that there's also that. And yes, you know what? At the end of the day, let's not ignore the fact that there are women and men who have expectations for first dates, and that is non-negotiable for them. And you know what I say to those people? There is a lid to every pot. So find the person who agrees with you on that. Stop trying to make another lid to another pot fit if it just doesn't. Okay? I think that just keep things simple. People, you know, see somebody and like, oh, she's so hot, he's so hot, or, you know, he's got a blue check mark. Oh, wow, on Instagram. And you pursue somebody and they keep showing you that they're not for you, but you keep doing it anyways. And you break your own boundaries. You end up in a relationship and then you wonder why you wake up a few years later and you're unhappy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Do you have an example or a story where you knocked it out of the park, hitting a guy up, like approaching a guy?
Yeah. What has worked? Yes. So I'm a little bit old fashioned. I don't usually approach guys, but this one time I couldn't take it. Okay. So I went out. And the way I listen, this is not something that I would recommend everyone to replicate because this is my way of flirting and this is my humor and my personality. Okay. So it doesn't sit well with everybody. And this could have gone south real quick. So I was out and about. It was Halloween, and it was a bar. It wasn't anything crazy. And I was with my group of friends. And I happened to turn around and I noticed this guy sitting at a booth by himself. His friends left. Like I knew he had friends and people were there. And he was just like staring at me and he would look away when we would, make eye contact kind of like this. And he was nervous. And the whole night he was doing this. And I was like, is this fucking guy going to approach me or not? What is going on? I think he's cute. I'm looking at him. I'm smiling at him. I'm like, okay, yes, come here,
Yeah, let's go, dude.
Let's go. Come on. Nothing. And normally that frustrates me, right? When I'm giving you the okay and you continuously look, I'm like, what do you, like, just at that point, you just got to, pull the trigger and
jump.
Go. Yeah, exactly. Or don't, and I'll never see you again. It is what it is. So the end of the night approaches. This guy still hasn't said anything. I'm putting on my coat. My friends are walking in front of me. And I'm like, guys, hold on one second. He's at the booth. And I go and I sit right next to him. And I look at him and I say, were you just going to stare at me the whole night and not say anything and not approach me? And he's like jaw dropped. He was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I just got out of this relationship and I don't know how to date. And I was nervous and I didn't want to bother you and like all these things. And I'm like, so do you want my number or not? And he's like shaking and gives me his phone. He's like, please. And so, I was very like rough and hard and straight up with him. And I think that it caught him off guard because it's probably not like the typical approach. But, he consented to me coming up to him. We were like kind of eye fucking the whole night, for lack of a better term. And so, I ended up I was clean cut about it. And I spoke to a few guys actually on an interview I did yesterday. And they were like, you know what? Sometimes it's just best if a girl just says what she wants and comes up and just does some of that work, and doesn't make it super challenging. Yes, we like a chase sometimes and we like a little bit of a challenge, but, sometimes just make it be known. And so that's what I did and it worked. And it's not going to work for everybody, but yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go for what you want. Yeah?
Exactly. Yeah. So we did. We saw each other for a bit afterwards.
Yeah, so it all worked out. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a big part of all of this is, radical responsibility, deep internal reflection, other than working with a coach, which is, it seems like a must, doing your own therapeutic work. What are some books you recommend or even courses for people beginning this process of self-discovery?
It's not exactly a self-discovery book, but it really helped my mindset and understanding the power of dealing with your thoughts. It's written by Dr. Habib Sadeghi. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. It's called The Clarity Cleanse. A must read for everybody. I think he's wonderful. And then I have another book called Attachment. I can grab it for you. I don't know who wrote it, but also a book my therapist actually recommended for me. And that has helped with my coaching and understanding different attachments that you build in relationships and all of that, and love languages, because you hear that word thrown around a lot, but it's crazy how everybody has their own attachment style based off of their past and their upbringing, and how that really does impact your relationships and what you should be working on, right? So knowing more about yourself will allow you to figure out, okay, where do I start? Well, I know that I need to work on this when it comes to relationships, or I need to work on this when it comes to, dealing with people in a business setting or whatever it might be. I can give you the name of that book after if you want, take a picture of it or something for you.
Fuck yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
And because it's a fitness podcast, we got to ask, what's your workout routine like?
Okay, so I'm not a huge workout person, but yoga
what
has
kind?
always been my thing. I used to do hot yoga every week, and I loved it. But with COVID and all of that stuff, things were shut down. And so I just do regular yoga. I love Yoga by Adrienne on YouTube. She's great for, any level that you're at with yoga. It's great for my mental as well as my body. I used to be a competitive dancer, so sometimes I'll dance around in my place. No lie, making routines.
Awesome.
And then I have a dog, so we do a lot of hikes and walks around the city, and trails here in Toronto. So yeah, I just kind of do what I can. Sometimes I'll throw in like a little booty pump, a little ab workout here and there. But yeah, I like to just be lean and tone and the dancer's body kind of thing. So I just maintain that.
That's super rad. Yeah, I love hot yoga too, especially if it's like an infrared studio. You feel so good afterwards.
Oh, the best feeling.
It's such a
I would do
cleanse.
it every Friday. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guy asked me on a first date to do hot yoga. I was like, fuck no. I'm not sweating that much in front of you on a first date. What the fuck?
That's a real sloppy date, I feel like. Because you just get like murdered in front of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, no.
You're like, oh, here's my pool, like my literal like kiddie pool of sweat right next to you.
I mean, I don't know what he was into, but I was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. You clearly haven't watched any of my videos because we're doing a coffee date first.
Yeah, come on, bro. 101. Do your research.
Super easy with me.
Eden, I really appreciate your time. How do people connect with you? How do people work with you? How do they follow you?
Thank you. So you can find all that information on my website, e-roticthebrand.com. And then you can follow my personal Instagram at Eden Lee Mitelman, which is my full name. And you can get the links to everything else through that and my website. And my services are available on my website as well.
Hell yeah. And one last question. What is the future of your brand? Like, where are we taking all this? I'm curious.
Well, I feel like the brand grows with you with time, right? So I'm sure it'll evolve the way I evolve. I want it to be more than just dating, sex, and love. Branch out to more lifestyle one day, and have other people a part of the brand too that can give a different perspective. I feel like that's really important. Like I had my brother on one of my first podcasts, and that was a hoot. People loved it. Because he offered a different perspective, right? And so I do want to have more voices on the E-Rotic brand for sure one day.
Fucking love it. Well, Eden, again, thank you very much. Very grateful. And,
thank you, Brent. It's been fun.
Do this again. Yeah.
Yes.
Boom. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Remember, follow the podcast, leave a review, helps us out so much. And just thank you so much for fucking being here. I really appreciate it. I love doing this. Love finding interesting people. I love connecting with people. I love having fucking conversations. It's amazing. If you want to be on the podcast, you know someone that would want to be on the podcast, you have feedback about the podcast, hit me up on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or shoot me an email, Brent@bodiesbybrent.com. And hope you guys are enjoying this. I will see you, hear me, something like that, on the next episode.